Hey everyone, welcome to another Cooking with Aron video. I'm Aron Schatz, obviously. Today we'll be doing mint fudge. Not chocolate fudge, mint fudge. I'll show you chocolate fudge in another video because I made it last week and I don't feel like making it again. And you know what? Chocolate and mint go together so well, so why not make a batch of mint fudge to go along with the chocolate fudge, right? Let's go over the ingredients that you'll need. First of all, peppermint extract. A lot of recipes will call for mint extract, and when they say mint extract, they usually mean peppermint extract. Spearmint tastes like toothpaste. You don't want your candy to taste like toothpaste. You will need a half a stick of butter. I'm using salted butter. If you don't have salted butter and you have regular unsalted butter, you're going to add a pinch of salt into the recipe. But if you have salted butter, no reason to add more salt. You're going to need a cup and a half of whole milk. You can use skim milk if you want, or 1 or 2%. The consistency will be slightly different, but it'll come out fine just the way it is anyway. You're going to need 3 1/4 cups of sugar, granulated sugar, confection sugar, whatever, doesn't matter. I use granulated sugar because there's no added cornstarch. I'm going to use a hint of vanilla extract. You don't need to use this. This is an optional ingredient. Vanilla usually adds a lot of flavor to any candy, so even chocolate fudge calls for vanilla extract. So a little bit of vanilla extract in there will just, kick it up a notch, so to speak. You will need a wooden spoon to mix everything, a spatula to scrape the sides of this off when all the fudge is coming out, because it's going to be nice and thick. You will need a piece of parchment paper, and the parchment paper is used to put in this Pyrex dish, because the fudge is going to cool in here. And if you don't have a piece of parchment paper to lay in here, you're going to have a piece of foil and you're going to butter the foil so the fudge won't stick to it. Parchment paper is great for a non-stick surface. You will also need measuring cups, and I have a few of them here. And lastly, a candy thermometer. Candy thermometer measures temperature of your cooking thing for oils and candy. I have a digital one. You can use one of those $3 ones. They work just the same. Right now, we're going to start everything up, measure the ingredients, and then put them in the pot to boil. Very important before you start, you want to make sure that your candy thermometer is at the correct height for the actual pan. So I'm going to dip the camera in to show you, and you can see that the candy thermometer is not touching the bottom. You do not want it to touch the bottom of the pan because then you will be reading incorrect heat. You want it to actually be reading the heat of the actual mixture itself, not the pan. So make sure it's just above the pan itself, not touching the pan, so you want it in the mixture itself. So that's good, and we're going to get the rest of the ingredients started now. This is 3 1/4 cups of sugar. I'm just going to dump it right in. No heat is on yet, just starting everything out. We'll put the heat on in a second. So I've got the milk ready, and I got my spoon ready. And you're going to have to get your butter ready. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn on the thermometer. And we're going to set it to softball. Making candy, especially sugar candy, is all about temperature. It's all about science. And fudge uses softball temperature. Now that means that once the mixture becomes higher than 234 degrees Fahrenheit, it would have reached the softball consistency, meaning that the sugar has cooked to a consistency of softball if you drop the actual mixture in ice cold water. And there's a whole bunch of other temperatures like hardball, soft crack, and stuff like that. But we're going to use the softball stage. That's how fudge is made. And we're going to start up this by putting it on medium heat. Medium heat. Alright, and what you're going to do is you're going to slowly add the milk. You want to make sure you do this slowly but consistently because you don't want the sugar to burn as you're actually mixing everything. Remember, there is heat on this. So just stir it in there, get it all nice and mixed up. You want to get it all out of the corners, off the sides and everything. Just keep doing that. And this is going to be the boring part of the video, where you're going to watch me stir for a long time until it actually reaches the desired temperature. Let's see if you can see that. Obviously the milk was cold. But you're just going to keep stirring. You're going to keep stirring all the way until everything starts to boil. And make sure that you're getting the sides of the pot, because sugar happens to stick everywhere. So you want to make sure you're mixing everything thoroughly. You want to make sure that everything is off the bottoms, off the sides. You want to make sure the milk is in there all nice, all spread evenly. This should look like a sugary syrup right now. It should be homogeneous. It should be all one consistency. It should all be nice and mixed up. Now there's a lot of recipes that call for sweetened condensed milk or evaporated milk. That's cheating. And when you're making a recipe, it's really nice to start from base ingredients. Butter, sugar, milk, that kind of stuff. So we're just going to continue to stir. Make sure that the heat is on medium. I'm going to bump it up just a little bit. And you want the heat to be consistent. You don't want it to be too high. You don't want it to be too low. You want it to get consistent heat. It will affect the consistency of the fudge later. There's one other thing that you probably will want to get, and I'm going to show that to you right now. A pastry brush, and this is a silicone one. And the reason for that is when it's boiling, a lot of the sugar will start boiling and hitting the sides and then solidifying. And what you can do at that point, well, I'll show you at that point. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. So we're just continuing to mix this, and let's check the temperature. 97 right now. Just keep mixing it. I know it's a little tedious and boring, but make sure you get the sides, the bottom, everything. You want everything in there. No extra sugar should be in there. It should all be dissolved in the milk. And remember, this is all about science, so you're going to learn something too. Now, sugar has a bunch of stages that it cooks at. Softball is the one we're going for. Starts at 234 degrees Fahrenheit. What that means is that you don't stop at 234. You can, but I like to get it a little more cooked. So we're going to stop at about 236 to 237 degrees Fahrenheit. And if you go under that or over that, you're not going to have fudge. You're going to have something else, and it'll probably be ruined. So the cooling, the heating, the cooling, and everything are very important for fudge. Fudge is a very easy thing to make, but getting it right is the difficult part because everything has to be exact, to a point at least. The temperatures have to be correct. If your temperatures are wrong, fudge just gets ruined, and that's why most people fail at fudge. They don't have the candy thermometer, and they guess at it, or the thermometer's touching the bottom of the pan, which is not good, or other things. So not only is heating important, cooling is important as well. So we're going to continue to stir this all the way until it boils. And I am going to throw in the butter right now. Put in this butter. It's getting warm enough. So I'm just going to plop the butter in right there. Get that all melted. Continue stirring, continue stirring, continue stirring until it starts to boil. You're just going to continue stirring and keep stirring and stirring and stirring. And I will be right back to save you the trouble of watching me stir this the whole time. So we'll be right back, and I'll put this on right before it starts to boil. We're almost at the point where this mixture is going to start to boil. The butter has been thoroughly melted, for the most part at least. It's almost done. And once this mixture starts to boil, let's see what the temperature is. 209. Once the mixture starts to boil, you're actually going to let it boil itself. You're going to stop mixing and just let it cook. And what happens is that the sugar mixture will begin to boil off the water, and that's where the temperatures come into play. So you can see right now that the mixture is starting to boil, and that's it. We're done for mixing. You're going to leave the heat consistently on that temperature you had it on, and now you're just going to let it sit. You can actually use this time to wash off the spoon if you want, which I suggest doing. And I'm not sure if you could see the temperature, but it's at 223 right now. So you're just going to let it wait till it's 234, and that's when you're going to start to really pay attention to it. This will actually start to beep when that happens. And I want you to take note of the way this looks right here, because the consistency is going to change once it goes to the different stages of the sugar temperatures. So I'm going to clean this off, and then I'm going to show you what to do with the silicone brush. I guess I forgot to mention that fudge actually takes a very long time to make. It doesn't take a long time to make for the prep work or everything. It just takes a long time because it has to cook to a certain temperature and it has to cool to a certain temperature before you start manipulating it. So I'm just going to check real quick. We're at 225.4. So I'm going to take a silicone pastry brush here, and I'm going to just wipe the sides down of this just to make sure that none of the ice crystals are forming on the sides. Crystals at this stage are going to be your enemy. So fudge, the consistency of fudge depends on the crystalline structure that the sugar cools with. So we want the fudge to be undisturbed once it's done cooking until we reach about 110 degrees Fahrenheit or 115, anywhere around there. But you want it to cool enough so that crystals don't form until that temperature. And then you're going to vigorously stir it until it cools down enough, and then you're going to pour it into the pans to finish cooling off. But at this point, we're just putting some, this is water, by the way. This is straight water. You're just brushing the sides off, just making sure that there's no buildup on the sides here. And this is not hurting the mixture at all because, like I said before, what you're doing is basically boiling off the water, and you're increasing the saturation of the sugar itself in this mixture. So more water will just increase the time that it takes to cook off and get that saturation to the point where it needs. But just make sure that there's nothing on the sides here. It's pretty good. Let's check the temperature. 227.8. I have no idea if you can even read that. It looks like you can. And it's going to keep going. And you can see that it's already changing the way it's cooking. You could see before it was really, really high and it was really bubbling high. You could see it's starting to subside a little bit and the bubble action is becoming very different. So I'm going to pause this real quick, and then right before it reaches the softball stage, I will start it again. We're almost at the temperature that the sugar will take the softball consistency. I just want to warn you real quick, when you're cooking with sugar or any kind of candy, hot, sugary mixtures are really, really dangerous. They will burn you, they will scald you worse than water because it just sticks to your skin. So be very, very careful in dealing with this. You don't want to put your hand in there, you don't want to go nuts with this. If little bits of sugar get on you and it's really hot, it's going to burn you really, really badly. So just remember that it's very, very different than just straight water. And obviously hot water is going to burn you as well. So it's at this, almost at the softball consistency. You can see it's 233.6. So we're going to get our oven mitts ready. Don't want to burn yourself. And when it reaches this stage, it's going to, this thermometer will actually beep at 235. So right now you can see that the boiling is different than it was even before this. So it's much, much lower, it's much more subdued, the bubble action is very, very different. So once this reaches 236, or in between 236 237, we're going to move this off the flame entirely and off the grating so it cools down consistently. So it's going to reach 235, it's going to start beeping, like that. And we're just going to wait until it reaches 236, and then we're going to take it off the flame and just let it cool. And this is the point where you're going to want your teaspoon to put the extracts in. Okay. And we are almost there. Come on. 236, good enough. Just turn the flame off. I'm just going to move it over here, off. You don't want to disturb it too much. Now, position the camera real quick here. There you go. Take your peppermint extract, and you want to stick this right in here. Whoop. Teaspoon worth. A little more. This one's mostly alcohol, so a little more won't hurt. And then I'm also going to take just a slight bit of vanilla, not much, just a couple of drops. See, just a little bit of vanilla, just to give it a little bit of flavor. Vanilla flavor is always good in confections. So you can't see the thermometer for right now. So I'm going to move the camera so you can see the thermometer. Now, you can see the thermometer now. This is the point where you're just going to have to let it cool down. You're going to let this entire thing just sit here, do nothing, until it reaches 115 to 110. And that's when you'll take your wooden spoon that you cleaned off, and you'll just start to vigorously mix it. And you're just going to keep mixing it and mixing it and mixing it until the shine goes to dullness. And I'll explain that once we actually get to that point. But you can see that it's cooling off. And this will take a while. It will take anywhere from like 40 minutes to an hour or so. So you're just going to have to continuously just watch this to make sure. And remember, make sure that it's off the bottom of the pan. And it's just going to cool down, and you're just going to have to let it sit there. Don't move it, don't do anything. And this is the point where you want no crystals to form, or minor crystals to form, because obviously this isn't a, this isn't like pure water, so you're going to have some crystals forming. All you have to do is just do something else. And every once in a while, just come back, see what the temperature is. You can see right now, it's 218, and it's steadily decreasing. Now, as it cools down, the temperature will start to slowly level off, because right now it has a lot of heat, but as it gets down to more closer to room temperature, the heat will dissipate slowly, or more slowly, I should say. So right now that you can see the heat is going away pretty quickly, but as it gets cooler, it'll slowly just lose its heat. And at that point, you're just going to have to wait it out. And this is the boring part about making fudge, because you really don't do anything right now. You just leave it. So I will be back, and maybe I'll show you when it's at 150. So we'll be back. At this point in time, it's a good time to clean up everything that you have that's dirty. And if you're doing something like this with your kids or anything, or doing it by yourself, this is a great time to just get everything all ready for the next step. So you have your Pyrex container with your parchment paper, or your foil-lined container with butter on it so the fudge doesn't stick to it. I should also mention that this fudge is not going to be green. The reason that mint fudge is green when you buy it is because they put green food coloring in it. And honestly, there's no reason to put food coloring. If you want to make it green, you can put a little bit of food coloring at the point where you put the extracts in, but there's no real reason to do that. If you wanted green fudge, it's fake. There's no reason to have fake ingredients when you're baking something by yourself, or making something by yourself, I should say. Either way, it's been 5 minutes, and the temperature is at 195 right now. So it's continually dropping, just dropping more and more slowly. And at this point, just do nothing. Wait for it to cool down to 115 to 110 degrees, and we'll come right back. It's been about 35 minutes, and it's still at 145 degrees. Still got a bit of ways to go. It'll probably be another 30 minutes or so, but you should check it every few minutes just to make sure where it's at. And then once it reaches 115 to 110, that's when you start to stir it vigorously. So we'll be back. We're at about 50 minutes, and still 131. Still got a little bit to go. And this is the time where it's just gonna drain on, so you're just gonna have to keep watching it every once in a while. Once it gets down to 115, 110, that's when you start stirring, so just keep waiting. It's about an hour now, and it's still at 121.6. Still a little bit to go. And we're going to check it again in, I don't know, 10 minutes. Be right back. It's been a little over an hour, and you can see that my candy thermometer actually just turned off. That means it dipped below 118 degrees Fahrenheit. So now I have to play this one just by eye and the residual heat coming off. So I'm going to reposition the camera, and in about 2-3 minutes should it be cool enough to actually start this process. And we're going to stir this thing up and then quickly pour it into the container to cool off. So let's reposition real quick. Got your spoon ready, spatula, got your container here, right here. Now we're just gonna start to stir it up. You can see that it's lumpy, it's got a little inconsistency in it. You want to get everything here. Just stir it up. You can see it's nice and shiny right now. And you're just going to stir it and stir it and stir it. Oh, it smells really minty. Just keep stirring it. Keep stirring it. This is going to be a slight workout for you people. Just keep stirring and stirring and stirring for a while until it loses its shine. And it'll happen fairly quickly too. You want to make sure you get everything in there. And if there's hard pieces on the sides, on the edges, like over here and such, don't really get those. You don't want them. They'll form. They'll be stuck in your fudge, and that's a little unpleasant. So you just want to get the sides that have the, you know, the coating on it, but you don't want the hard bits from the sides, because that'll make your fudge have a little bit of a grainy consistency. You don't want that. And the sides might be burnt a little bit as well. So just keep stirring. Just keep stirring. And this is in real time. I'm not going to speed this up. I'm going to show you how long this actually takes. So you can see that the consistency is becoming more uniform. And the stirring not only is forming these sugar crystals, but we're also incorporating some air into it as well by stirring this. And incorporating air is a standard process for a lot of candy, including taffies and such. It makes it a little more light. I hate to use the term airy, but it makes it a little more airy. The consistency is still nice and glossy, and like I said, the transformation to from glossy to dull will happen very, very quickly. And it's at that point that you want to immediately pour it out into the Pyrex container to start cooling down. So I can see right now that it's starting to solidify a little bit more. It's becoming less and less runny, and I can see that it's starting to get dull. I don't know if you can see that, but if I stir this just a little bit more, you'll start to see that it's becoming dull and less shiny. So I'm going to stir it just a tiny bit more, and it's at this point where you're going to want to quickly get it into the container. So it's pretty much, let's get this ready here. Now this is not a science. This is the worst part about making fudge. Yeah, so we're just going to see if we can get the majority of it out of here first. Just going to scoop it right in there. This would probably be easier if you had more than one person doing this. But it's still warm, so it's nice. It's solidifying already. This is where you want to get your spatula eventually, but I'll just continue to scrape it out with this for now. Now I'll get the spatula in there. Get it in there. And the fudge is still warm, but it's still solidifying right now. So you can see you can shape it, but there's still more in here, so we're going to take our spatula and see if we can get more out of there. And you want to get, oh, sorry about that. You want to see if you can get as much as you can out of there, because it's all good fudge. And once it's out of there, you'll shape it, it'll become all nice and uniform. This is where a more rigid spatula comes in handy, because the spatula I have is kind of not that rigid, doesn't really get the sides, but gets the job done at least. And you can see, I don't know if you can see, okay, it's pretty good. Oh, by the way, so we'll just take a little bit. Ooh, that's good. That is minty. Woo! It's good. So now we've got this. I'm just going to spread it, push it down here. And all you're doing is just making it, flattening it, pushing it down. You can use any size container you want. I like this size. I have no idea what it is. I think it's 9 by 13 or so. And the reason I like it is because fudge will be thin enough that you can cut into a lot of pieces instead of those really thick ones that you would get at like the boardwalk or something. But those little thin, well, they're not that thin, but pieces that they're not too big, not too small. Get a nice bit of fudge. Okay. Okay, you just want to get it out there so it's pretty uniform. And that's looking fine. And if you want to get the edges to be a little bit more defined rather than this kind of like cracking, what you can do is, if you have parchment paper, you can actually take the sides of the parchment paper and just fold it in on itself a little bit, push down, and get the edges a little more defined. But usually the edges will become just like this. They'll start to crack a little bit. That's no big deal. It's all still good. So that's the fudge right there. That's the mint fudge. And we're going to let this cool for a couple of hours. You don't have to put it in the fridge if you don't want to. It's no better in the fridge than just leaving it out. So we're going to leave it out for a little bit, maybe 2-3 hours until it cools off completely. Right now it's still very warm, very malleable. You want it to be you know what fudge is supposed to, you know the consistency of fudge. You want it to wait until it gets cool enough so you can actually slice it and then serve it. So that's it. That was the entire recipe, and you should be left with this beautiful, beautiful batch of fudge. Now all you have to do is clean this container out, which is the worst part. I hope you enjoyed making fudge with me today, and this is an example of mint fudge. You can make vanilla fudge. Chocolate fudge is different to make. So if you're going to make a chocolate fudge and you're going to use cocoa, it's a slightly different recipe, and we'll do that one next. Not necessarily the next video, but the next fudge recipe I will show you will be chocolate fudge, because that is spectacular. Mint fudge goes really, really well with chocolate though. And if you want, you can actually put a little bit of peppermint extract in chocolate fudge and make it like a chocolate mint fudge. But mint fudge itself, very, very, very nice smell. And the good thing about cooking, it makes your entire house smell really, really nice. So if somebody walks in, it's like, what did you just do? It's like, I just made some candy. And you can too. I hope you found this video informative. And you know what? Let me know how you're doing. Tell me if you have any additions to the recipe. Tell me if it worked out for you. And remember, fudge, like most sugary types of things, is all about temperatures and time and patience. So make some fudge, eat it, and it'll taste great. Thanks for watching.